Jackson Dart, 4.5 games started.
Oh, over. I mean, I think that's almost free. If you look at the look ahead lines here for the Giants, I mean, it is just a murderer's row. I think Russell Wilson can play fine and still not end up being the starter for half the season.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. We're talking football news that happened over the weekend and on Monday to kick things off. Then we're getting into our favorite future bets for the NFL season from BetSperts. We got Ryan Noonan, Conor Allen. You guys have become like a mainstay of who I'm talking to about futures. But in case people want to see some more of the regulars, not to say that Ryan and Conor won't become regulars on the PME during football season. Me, Jeff, and Cust are kicking off 25 straight weeks of spread picks, win totals starting next week. And then Rob and Cam will be back next week as well. And then every week during the season. Conor, you're playing golf and using a new driver? That sounds exciting.
Yeah, it was certainly experience. I think, got one out in the fairway out of all of them and was pretty frustrated. But, here, we live to see another day. I'll be back out next weekend and we'll figure it out then.
Noonan, did you get Conor into golf so you could eventually take money off of him on the course?
I tried a little bit yesterday. We talked about it at the top. I offered to give him a shot per hole, but we'll get there. Part of it too is, I also still want to help him get to a better spot in his game. So I didn't want to add like a super competitive element while I was still trying to like layer in some like coaching and stuff like that. So we'll get him there. He's new to the game. But we're seeing some pretty good growth for Conor. Mostly just want a playing partner. It's just hard to find, someone that can get out all the time. And Conor's still, recently married, no children yet. So his flexibility is pretty good. So if I want to get out, chances are he's available. So that was more so the ruse here than anything.
Want to remind everyone to smash the like to the episode. Give me your favorite future bet down in the comment section right now. It could be a win total, could be a player prop, whatever it may be. But just a reminder, go to Underdog and use code Mayo to get yourself up to $1,000 deposit bonus. They have the NFL futures up there right now. I'll be using those for some of my picks as we go through and try to find the best number on Underdog from Conor and Ryan's picks as well. I want to start off because you guys are in the Chicagoland area. Conor, we'll start with you. Fuck's going on with Caleb Williams?
Yeah, the early reports are not great from training camp. It's obviously very uneven, but I think that there's still some, ray of hope here. I think that Ben Johnson's put a lot on his plate early on. It didn't look good the first couple of days. Also, I think that the Bears defense could be pretty good under Dennis Allen. So I think that when you take it into context, it'll be okay. I don't have sky high expectations for them from a win total perspective, but I do think that the Bears offense will be pretty fun come end of the season. It just might take a couple of games for the Bears to get going offensively.
You scared, Ryan?
I mean, that video where he's missing the holes in the net, like that's not great. I like that he was mad about it at least, but pretty bad look. In this time of year, like we're looking for anything. So when you get that clipped out, it's not great. But with Conor, I mean, the offensive line upgrades are pretty massive. The coaching probably will be a thread throughout the show today, but NFL football coaching matters more than any other sport. And when you have someone who has somewhat of a proven track record as an elite play caller, and then brings in like Dennis Allen is one of these dudes that there's a long history of these guys that maybe try to like punch above their weight a little bit and really can't command a room and aren't really good head coaches, but you get them in a coordinator role and they're like borderline elite. And I think Dennis Allen defenses in New Orleans really exceeded the skill level there. And I think there's a pretty talented Bears defense. So I think a lot of the optimism is kind of baked into the market. So I'm not super worried about the clips yet, but mostly that division is brutal. We'll talk about those teams today. I know I definitely have some thoughts on one of them.
Well, I just wanted to kind of jab you guys to start things off. Real news. Over the weekend, Matt Stafford goes to visit another back specialist. That doesn't sound so great. And is going to be the primer for one of my future bets. I'm going to try to get this one boosted up on Cool Bet. It's plus 120 right now for the under 9.5 wins on the Rams. And maybe this doesn't come to fruition. Stafford ends up being fine. But I could see like week 5, week 6 into the season, if they lose Stafford and Jimmy G is playing quarterback for them, I just don't think they're going to be all that good. I'd be sort of pensive on a lot of the Rams because right now, for years, the Rams were built up as sort of an all-star team. I mean, they ended up winning the Super Bowl because of it, but they stayed relatively healthy. Once you got to their backups, it wasn't going to be very good. And weirdly, despite replenishing a lot of the talent, Noonan, that the Rams do kind of feel that way again, that if one of the pieces goes down, all of a sudden, it's not going to be all that great. Like, could they survive 4 weeks without Puka? Yeah, you got Devontae Adams there. That's okay. You got rookies playing well in training camp. But if Stafford goes down, Jimmy G is fine. He's probably one of the better backups in the league, but it's a big drop-off.
Yeah, he needs to talk to Samson. He needs a backiotomy. It's not a great spot to be in at this point when you're kind of pushing it age-wise too, right? Like he's, I don't know, the wrong side of 35-ish. And Puka, you even mentioned Puka. Like, I feel like Puka is one of those guys that he's just questionable in game 3 to 4 times a season. It's just like, is Puka coming back into this game? Is he playing next week? So I want to be optimistic with the Rams coming into the season because I think that this is another like defense that was able to kind of perform a year before expected. And I think that unit is significantly better. And then you added Devontae Adams, who I don't think is washed quite yet. I think Sean McVay is just a guy that can get more out of it. So I wanted to be optimistic, but I'm with you. I mean, there's a lot of questions. Jimmy G is an above average backup quarterback, but that floor falls out pretty quickly without him because I think Stafford has just been probably one of the most underrated players the last 15 years in the league and can really take them to the next level. So a lot of questions in that division too. I think there's some better improving football teams. And if you're having to kind of do that with Jimmy G, 9.5 wins is a little concerning.
Yeah, 9.5 wins, Connor, at plus 120 for the under. Imagine I can go to CoolBet and be like, yo, give me plus 150 on that and make it available for everyone who uses CoolBet, which you can go click down in the description, go do that right now, or scan the QR that I'm guessing is probably up on the screen. Make it even easier on yourself. But without Stafford, over 9.5 seems tough. And I'm not even saying like without Stafford the entire year, just if he gets banged up anywhere for a 4-week stretch, it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, I think it's not really baked in yet, like you mentioned. And also, too, you have the underrated aspect of Devontae Adams essentially leaving the Raiders because he didn't want to play with Jimmy G. And now they are reconnecting. And, they're like, oh, it was never about him. It was about the Raiders. Yeah, BS. Like I'm calling bullshit on that. That's not gonna fly. Devontae Adams is gonna be super upset if Jimmy G's starting again, which again leads to everything. Their receiving core is pretty thin after Puka and Devontae, which is not that surprising. Right now, the Rams are favored in 13 out of their 17 games using look-ahead lines, which I think is pretty interesting. But almost all of them are very close. And obviously, I think almost all these games flip to them being underdogs if Jimmy G's starting and not Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be that Stafford is out. Stafford could just get banged up and try to play through it. And then all of a sudden you're not getting 100% Stafford. That maybe picking on the Rams if you see a gigantic hit or he leaves for a little bit, that once the cortisone starts wearing off, he might not be the same.
I mean, you can go about it in different ways too, like about Puka's receiving yard under, right? That gets a lot less enticing if it's Jimmy G. And then we've already talked about the variable of him, just going all out on 1st and 10 in the first drive of the game to get it, dive in the chains, lands on the football, and then doesn't come back. Like there's been a lot of that in the early Puka experience. So, that was an angle that I was thinking about today too, kind of to play up the Stafford angle too. I think it's a good look. I mean, he's great. He's a 1st-round pick in fantasy, but the downside is really there for sure too.
I actually went the other way on it. Just if Puka ends up staying healthy, I get what you're saying. And I think that actually makes a ton of sense. But I just went with Stafford lower than 3,699.5 passing yards. That's on Underdog. So I'm going to add that to my card. We'll release the whole card at the end of the show for what we end up coming up with. The next one, Khalil Shakir is week to week with a high ankle sprain, Connor. James Cook is holding in. So he's at practice, but he's not practicing, looking for a new deal. The Shakir thing worries me more. It's the same ankle that he rolled over a year ago in week 4, week 5, missed a week, and then kind of hobbled through the rest of the season, despite putting up career highs in almost everything. Does it worry you that he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the year? I'm thinking about more of this from like a fantasy perspective for Shakir, because I'm guessing by week 4 that he's going to be fine for the Bills. I mean, the Bills could start 0-3, and I think it wouldn't be good, but it wouldn't be panic-inducing at the same time either.
Yeah, pretty much every year we see guys get banged up in the injury, and this is a high ankle sprain, if I remember correctly as well. I mean, that's a big issue because it usually lingers around for a while. it can cause a lot of problems early on. So I just pretty much blindly fade in fantasy and, in the betting markets as well on guys who are like injured in preseason and are especially like a week-to-week injury. So yeah, I think that this kind of has an interesting shakeout for the Bills. So we have Keon Coleman probably playing on the outside still. Josh Palmer they signed as well, who I think is probably going to play a good bit on the outside. And then kind of who fills that slot role early on? Maybe it's Curtis Samuel. I don't really know. And so I think that maybe Dalton Kincaid takes a step forward, but he's been kind of like injured and not injured every other day, it seems like, in training camp so far. And so I don't know. I don't know if it really impacts Josh Allen, who's obviously been a talent elevator the last couple of years specifically, but certainly for Shakir's outlook for the whole season, I'm not super excited about him anymore, to be honest.
Ryan, would you just go smash Josh Palmer overs?
I like Josh Palmer. It's a team of like wide receiver threes. So I think it's really hard to be super optimistic on anyone. And like Josh can get it done with his legs so much. It's just one of those things where you'll find different weeks. It'll be whack-a-mole with who does what. So not a team that I'm trying to attack or find angles on. Shakir just is not a super exciting prospect to begin with. It can move the chains. I think is really important for what they want to do. But like, that could be Elijah Moore, that could be Curtis Samuel, or that could be a Dalton Kincaid emerging. So I'm not a Keon Coleman guy. I think there's a single book that has Keon Coleman posted right now. Would love for more markets to get involved and to try to fade that. We just have a lot of data on him not being able to separate and be in more than a contested catch guy. But I like Josh Palmer, but that's probably more of a fantasy pick than anything I want to attack in the betting market.
I can give you 749.5 receiving yards for Keon Coleman. I think I still like the lower.
I would love the under.
Under.
Yeah.
Lower. Yeah, lower.
Lower. I like lower on Underdog.
All right. So Keon Coleman, maybe we'll, I'll make a short list here from when we get to it at the end of the show. But yeah, so far, I think that's the one that I like from there. Connor, do you have any take on James Cook? Do you think he's going to get his contract?
See, I'm a little bit worried because, Ray Davis came in and was awesome. So what leverage does James Cook really have? Like, I do think that they probably get something done, but now that he's officially starting his hold-in as of today, I think things become a little bit more dicey because it's not like Terry McLaurin where, they have nothing else, like it's like Deebo Samuel, but they have like no real, field stretchers. Like the Bills have Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, who I think can be a pretty competent, like 1-2 duo. And James Cook is obviously good. I think better than those guys, but how much better? Is it worth a new contract? I'm not really sure. So I don't know. I'm a little bit less optimistic on James Cook, to be honest.
Noonan?
Yeah, like James Cook actually is one of my ones for today, regardless of the holdout information. I think James Cook under 9.5 rushing touchdowns or lower on Underdog, I think is a really strong look. Look, he has less than 50% of the team's carries inside the 5 the last couple of years, less than 50% of the team's carries inside the 10, whether that's Ray Davis or mostly it's Josh Allen. He can get there on home runs. I think Connor and we cashed under 4.5 rushing touchdowns on James Conner like 2 years ago. So he obviously exploded last year and had a ton, but he's doing it on some pretty light volume in terms of elite backs. So whether this impacts playing time early or just in general, like I think it's still just too strong of a number for him to get to 10 touchdowns. I know we're going up against what he did last year and it was great, but natural regression, looking at how infrequently he gets the ball inside the 5 and inside the 10, and touchdowns are just hard to predict anyway. So I think there's a lot of good variance on our side. And yeah, lower than 9.5, I think is a good look.
Cowboys owner Jerry Jones has said that Micah Parsons' trade request is a part, quote, of negotiations. Do you think that Parsons will be on the Cowboys, Connor?
Yeah, they're going to get it done. Look, someone needs to tell Jerry just to stop talking. Every time he talks, it's just like a net negative. But, I don't think anyone's going to do that because he's obviously the owner. I think they're going to get a deal done. If they don't get a deal done, this Cowboys team is going to be just such an awesome overs team, like receiving overs, passing overs, game total overs, everything. Like they're going to be, the Cincinnati of the NFC here. So I think would be really fun to watch with them not being on the field. But I do think that they're probably going to get a deal done.
What do you make of it, Ryan? Because I could see Parsons just saying, screw it, I'm holding out until you trade me.
They could. Otherwise, I don't understand, even with all the dysfunction of Dallas, how you trade this type of player. You obviously get a pretty sizable haul. They keep doing this. They've done this with all of them. All it's done is made all these deals more expensive for them. So I am with Connor as well. I'd be really surprised for him to go elsewhere. I think he would look really good in the Patriots uniform. Just putting that out there. They have some money to spend and some capital to give up. But yeah, I mean, you got to get this deal done. Either way, I think they're a great overs team because the secondary I have a ton of questions on. We obviously have concerns about the offensive line and the running game. So I think there could be some early season overs. I know people love, I think Connor's played some Dak Prescott alts, 4,000 plus over on his passing yards. I think CeeDee Lamb over like 1150. More than 1150 has to be a part of that too. I just don't see a path where Dak is really entering in any sort of ceiling outcome, reaching 4,000 yards without 1,200 and change, 1,500 from CeeDee Lamb. So if you want to take some alts and have CD do that, that's out there too. But just his binary prop is 1150. I think in a few different spots. I think that there's just no path to Dak hitting those outcomes without CD. So I'm in on anything that's going to be Dallas over because I think that secondary is pretty poor.
You can get +1, +2, +127 on over 4,000 passing yards, Connor. Is that enough for you, or would you go even higher?
I would go even higher. So I played 4,500 plus. If you look at 2 years ago, he had 4,600 passing yards. Last year, if you remove the game, he got injured and played less than half the snaps. He was on pace for, again, 4,600 yards. Now you add George Pickens. You have basically no running game. You have Miles Sanders who's already injured, Javonte Williams who just stinks. And then you draft Jaden Blue, who's been getting a little bit of hype lately, and I think is probably fun and interesting. But I don't know if they're going to have any consistent running game here. So that to me, along with the defensive woes and potentially Parsons being gone, who knows there? I think that this Cowboys team might try and run the ball, but eventually he's just going to have to throw the ball basically all game. So I like Dak over. I think the regular prop is 3,850 on Underdog and other spots. And then the alts 4,000, 4,500. I think is even 3-1 or 4-1 in some spots.
Emmanuel Wilson and Marshawn Lloyd now both have injuries in Packers camp. We're not quite sure when they're going to be coming back, but they're the two that are immediately behind Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs was used as a workhorse last year, Noonan. Are we kind of sleeping on what his volume might be again this year? We just assume that they're going to start working in other guys. But Marshawn Lloyd literally can't stay healthy. This is now year 2, and the injuries are starting earlier this year than they did a year ago. That Jacobs would have a chance to rival the very top-end running backs in terms of snap shares.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, the coaches sound discouraged what's going on with the guys behind him. It's a good offensive line. You think some of their season-long, pass rate over expectation metrics are a little bit skewed because we had 3 games of Willis in there, just running every play, and they actually kind of had a couple blowouts in there too. But they're pretty much a slightly to neutral run-heavy team. And I don't think he did anything that showed you that he didn't deserve that we should be siphoning off some of his touch there. So I would expect him to be right up where he was last year, assuming he stays healthy. Still kind of in the prime of his career age-wise, so I expect a really good year from him.
Noonan, do you kind of circle back to that? His rushing total right now is 1,100 yards.
It's tough. I mean, running back overs, and Connor will be proud of me because Connor loves I think his skin crawls anytime we're talking about season-long overs. Even though we talk some Dak ones and some stuff, especially running backs. I think you're just more likely to win. There's so many outs that can happen in the season in terms of unders. With running backs, especially with all of the pounding that they take. So I would lean that way. Again, it would be something that I would want to take an alt to get rewarded for ceiling outcomes versus the binary prop. But in fantasy, he's someone that I would draft over ADP at this point for sure.
Let's talk about that fantasy-wise for a second. You have Jacobs, who is going inside the top 10 at running back. You can check out all of the ranking shows up on Mayo Media Network right now. Ian, Jake, and I have gone through each of the positions. My top 50 150. Sorry, not my top 50. Thanks for nothing, Pat. My top 150 ranking show with Ian and Jake will be coming out next week. But you have Jacobs, and 10.5 is his rushing touchdown. Would that be, Connor, a better way to play it than rushing yards? That 10.5 rushing touchdowns, knowing that he's the guy that they turn around and give the ball to on the goal line, regardless of who's playing running back, that if things go well and he's not being taken away from anyone and the Packers do score some points here, that he could get to that rather quickly?
Yeah, I think both of them are more does he stay healthy for 14 games props? That's kind of, I think, what we're looking at, because I don't really see a scenario where he plays, more than that, and then he doesn't hit over 10.5 and over 1,100 rushing yards. So yeah, to your point, on Noonan's point, like I definitely skew under for most of my props, but like again, I think this is it's one that again, it's just like a based on health, and like if he can be out there, he's going to crush both these numbers.
Fantasy football season is back with a vengeance. You can get yourself the best tools possible this year, be it for season long, DFS, or betting. Whatever it is you need, you can get it at 4for4.com/Mayo. The most accurate projections and rankings in the business. 4 different levels. Code Mayo will get you 25% off everything, and you can upgrade. Just the classic season long, $39 a season. You can go monthly. That's going to cost you double. You should just buy it for the season. And then you get down to the betting package, $249 per season, minus 25%. For Code Mayo, you get the props, the sides, the total bets, the tackle props, the player prop tool, the betting Discord, the articles, and everything else included in every other package. Get on it now so you can win your league. 4for4.com/Mayo. Look, I don't bounce back exactly the way that I used to when I was 20 years old. If I'm going out drinking, even just having a few glasses of wine, I wake up in the morning, got a scorching headache. It doesn't really work out well for the plans that I need to have starting at 6 a.m. every day when the kids want to get up, go outside, go to the playground, ride a bike, whatever it might be. I need to be there to do that with them. And it used to be I can either have a great night or just have a struggle the next day. That is until I found pre-alcohol. The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for the rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel the best tomorrow. The kids are actually away this weekend, so I actually had a few glasses of wine before recording the research show that I had to wake up super early for to do in the morning. And trust me, you don't want to have a real bad hangover with lights in your face and you're trying to sound energetic. Woke up this morning and felt awesome. Was able to record the show as early as possible. Then I went for a run afterwards, came back and recorded this ad. The final days of summer are here for you to enjoy. Whether you're heading to the beach, camping in the woods, or squeezing one last vacation road trip, do not forget to bring ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink. Drink a pre-alcohol before drinking and enjoy every day of summer to the fullest. Go to zbiotics.com/PatMayo to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use PatMayo at checkout. ZBiotics is packed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/PatMayo and use code PatMayo at checkout for 15% off. Let's get into some props. I told you guys to prepare some for this show. So, Connor, I know you have 80,000. Give me some of the best ones.
Yeah, we'll go right off the bat here. I'm going to go with Breece Hall under 900.5 rushing yards. I think you can find this anywhere from like 875 to 950. I like the under here on Breece Hall. There's talk about Braylon Allen being used more and more and more. Aaron Glenn comes from the Lions, where they had the 1-2 duo of Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. He's talked about that being the case for them there. He's talked to Braylon Allen's just ability in general to kind of like grind the ball between the tackles. Now, Breece Hall, they've been talking up recently about using more in the passing game. Doesn't matter for this prop. This is a rushing prop only. I do think that he's going to be used more in the passing game, but then you also have the Justin Fields, factor here, who's going to run plenty with his legs and not check down as much. So I think that we're going to see probably a good, healthy dose of Braylon Allen. And then, Breece Hall will get his own, but 900 yards is a lot. I mean, that's like looking at him as basically the clear number one and maybe a sprinkle of anyone else. Now we're looking at potentially Justin Fields rushing a ton and Braylon Allen, in the mix, and then some Justin Fields rushing. So I think Breece Hall under 900.5 is a pretty good look.
And you always have, with any of these unders, you always have the injury out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's the study that Noonan referenced. The last 4 years, I've looked at every prop. Unders have blindly hit at 60% or higher every single year for the last 4 years. And we're talking about, hundreds and hundreds of props that I've been able to compile. So, it's like injury outs, offensive line gets injured, quarterback gets injured, and then it just diminishes the efficiency of all the guys, or maybe they just stink or they get benched. Like there's so many different outs that can happen for an under to hit on season-long props.
Noonan, if people go to 4for4.com/Mayo and get the betting package that's up there right now and save themselves 25%, they get access to your tackle props, which is something that I love every single week. Very good hit rate on those. Are there any defensive props going into the season you like, or is that specifically, hey, I need to play this week by week to see what's going on?
No, they are slow to release so far. Last year at this time, they had released some season-long tackle numbers. I'm ready to go. Projections are done, both on tackles and sacks. Sacks are out there at a couple of books. Caesars has them, and then some low liquidity books. So we really want to get some more outs out there for people. But yeah, if you're subscribed, 4for4.com/Mayo, take advantage of that deal. 25% is the best deal out there. You will have access to not only the tools and some of the stuff that we have coming out that Pat has teased as of late. You will have access to tackle and sack bets, all of Connor's bad quarterback unders, on all the things that he has been printing out the last couple of years. I don't know, Connor, like 70% hit rate on some unders last year. It was insane for a little while there, but yeah, that's all part of it. So I will have some defensive stuff soon. The books are a little bit slow to kind of join the party this year.
Connor, what is better, winning money by betting unders or losing betting overs because it's more fun?
That's a tough question. I mean, I am always of the opinion that winning money, no matter how you get there, is better. But that being said, if I go to a game, I'm not betting an under if I'm like at a game or something like that. So I'll bet an over. But Sunday got 15 props. An under 170 passing yards on Malik Willis. I mean, just nothing hits better than that. Guy just can't play football. So, it's a lot of so many good different outs there. So I like the unders on stuff more, to be honest.
So Connor starts off with Breece Hall under 100 or 900 and whatever it might be, depending on your book, rushing yards. Where do you think that's playable to? Like 900 being the key number there? Like, hey, if it's below 900, if you got an 8 there, probably stay away. If it's above that, bet the under.
No, I think I would. I think there's another like 50 yards of wiggle room. I think 850, like maybe low 800s is pretty fair still. Just kind of looking at the range of outcomes there. But yeah, I think like 850 would be solid still too.
On Underdog right now, it's 924.5. So made note of that for the card a little bit later on to go under on that. Noonan, what do you got for your top prop?
Look, professional segue. We've been doing this together for a long time. I kind of teased this one with Connor a little bit yesterday. I wanted to take his temperature on it. Justin Fields over 625.5 rushing yards. This is essentially, does he make 12 starts? Kind of a play, in my opinion. We've seen him, I think 2 years ago when he had 15 starts, he got up to like 1140. Even last year, 6 starts, just shy of 300. A couple years ago, even on like, I think 12 starts, he went over this. So look, Aaron Glenn in Detroit saw Justin Fields gash him time and time again. They do not have pass catchers really outside of Garrett Wilson. And we've talked about the running back stuff. It's a great offensive line. They want to run the football. There is obviously concern with, I'm not super concerned about the toe. He seems to already have recovered from that. Just the quarterback running in general is something that should make us a little bit nervous, but I think there's so much wiggle that's already kind of baked into this number at 6.25 for what we've seen ceiling wise on a team that I think is going to set him loose even more. So you could take like 1,000 plus if you think he's going to stay healthy and, play 15 games. That's up to like 3-1, just 6.25. I think the bar is really so low for what I think for him this year. So we'll stay on the Jets rushing, but I'm going to go over on Fields 6.25.
Yeah, you could probably play them together as well because one would maybe not lead into. I actually like Garrett Wilson reception overs if you can find any of those. Underdog not posting Garrett Wilson futures at the moment. Not quite sure why that is. So the median projection from 4for4 right now, just looking at it, is 851 yards for Justin Fields. Obviously, that's making the assumption that he's going to play every single game. I guess my biggest pushback would be that Cust roots for this team. So the worst thing ever is going to happen to Justin Fields.
So I'm pretty sure the median projections are accounting for, I think, at least a game lost.
Yeah, it's like a game. It's like a game and a half.
Yeah. So it is baked in a little bit, which actually bodes well for Connor's Breece Hall under as well, which I think we have a tick over 800 yards. So that's good too. So yeah, it is not baked in a full allotment of gains. But yeah, being on the wrong side of the cusp, like Look, I've done a little bit of the Mayo car wash. I mean, I know Garion. Feinberg is, I would consider a friend. Got my first experience with Cam a couple weeks ago. I haven't had a run-in with Cuss yet, so I don't want to be on the wrong side. So I'm going to give him a Jets over here. But again, that probably bodes poorly for me historically because that man has insane run of like killing people, people dying, losing their jobs. It's just kind of insane stuff. So I don't want to be on the wrong side of Cuss stuff.
Yeah, Custies are coming out this Thursday. So if people want to tune into that, we're going to be good to go. The one that I'm going to give you right now is, I don't even think it's actually that particularly of a bold take, but I was on with Ian Hartitz on Fantasy Life last week. He said, like, what's your one big prediction? I was like, Malik Neighbors is going to be the number one receiver in all of fantasy. So I might as well put some money behind that because I can't just go into every draft being like, hey, I'm going to get Neighbors. Maybe I don't pick high enough that I can get Neighbors. But 1,174 and a half receiving yards. I'm going to take the over on that, Connor. There's an outside chance he has 200 targets this year.
Yeah, I think you could bet on him to lead the league in receiving yards. I think you could bet on him to have like 1,500 plus yards. It's just like, if you think about what he did as a rookie last year, so frustrated. Now, like, I wouldn't say that, Russell Wilson is awesome, but you also bring in Jackson Dart. One of them will provide more competent quarterback play than they had last year. So, yeah, I'm very confident Malik Neighbors is just an elite talent in an offense. It's going to be better. So, yeah, I think that you could play basically overs and alts for a guy like Neighbors.
The only thing I worry about Noonan is that he always seems perpetually banged up.
Yeah, that's fair too. Our projections, we have Jamar Chase and Puka at 106 receptions. We have Neighbors one behind him at 105. He's available. Neighbors 12-1 to lead the league in receptions. So that looks like a pretty good value based off of our projections. I agree. But I also think you can make the same case for Puka, who's up there too. We've already kind of done that. So
yeah, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think if you could bet them head to head, I would take Garrett Wilson receptions over Puka receptions. There are just too many competent people with the Rams. Even if, let's say, Stafford does stay healthy. Not to say that Puka is not going to have a great year, but you're going to see some like insane. You're going to see Wes Welker type Garrett Wilson numbers from some games this year. And yeah, Fields can't throw. It's not like he's going to have 600 passing yards this year. If he has a shitty season and plays all 17 games, he'll have at worst, 2,700, 2,800. Garrett Wilson might end up with a 40% target share.
No, I'm in with you. I think maybe there's some stuff early in the season that we could pick off before the books adjust to some volume stuff. And when I like to bet in-season receiver stuff, I do like receptions more so than yards. I like receptions and longest reception, some splash play stuff, because I think there's a lot of variance in receiving yards and game script and different things that can happen. But when you look at volume, I think that can become a little bit more reliable week to week. So yeah, I mean, if we get 6.5 receptions plus money, or even if we get a little bit of juicy 5.5, which maybe I'm too optimistic that that's going to be available for us, but I think those are going to be some things I'll be looking at week one for sure.
But as it kind of goes to Neighbors, like I like Darius Slayton as much as the next guy, Wendell, Theo Johnson. These are real names, Connor, but it's going to be chuck it up to Neighbors 20 times a game.
Yeah, when comparatively to the Jets too, it's like Garrett Wilson, Malachi Corley, Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard. I don't even know if he's going to be on the team. I think he might just he's inevitably going to end up with Rodgers. I think that, that's just destiny, it seems like. So yeah, neither of them have any real target competition. I think that actually the Giants supporting cast just helps Neighbors because Slayton can clear the field a little bit more than the other guys who talked about the Jets. And you'll probably see Wandale over the middle a little bit. I mean, the Jets have no one. So at least I think Neighbors will probably be more efficient. Garrett Wilson just might see a million targets.
All right, we'll stay with you. Another prop.
Yeah, I'm going to go with another under here. Surprise, surprise. Adam Thielen under 575 receiving yards. Panthers drafted Ted McMillan 8th overall. They get Xavier Legette back in his second year, who I think is going to take a step forward. And then for the slot competition, I think a little bit underrated aspect here is two guys. Jalen Coker showed out last season. Now he's still not, he's still behind Adam Thielen, but Hunter Renfrow also has been playing really, really well. He took a year off and because of some illness or disease or something like that. And then now is back and apparently crushing in training camp. And, it's basically like a roster lock according to Panthers beat writers right now. So again, those are two guys who I think compete like very directly with what Adam Thielen can do. Thielen turns 35 in a couple weeks. So there's just like a lot of outs here on this under. Like, yeah, if Thielen is a starter for all 17 games, he's probably going over this number. But like, I don't think he's going to be the starter the whole season. He can get injured. He's old. He might just not be as good. He's more target competition if he is starting. So there's just a lot of outs here for this under.
I like this one a lot. I mean, 35. I'm older than that, Noonan. I woke up today. It's not like I was out drinking last night. I actually got 8 hours of sleep, consistent sleep. And I woke up, I was like, I don't feel good. Why? Because I'm fucking old.
I barely remember 35, Pat. So I mean, we're so far removed from that. So yeah, I'm with you. I like to think that, I get on the golf course, I'm still in my athletic prime. Connor's 30 and I'm, out driving him by 100 yards. So I'm going to hold on to that. But I think it's a little different than playing football for 17 games. So I'm with it. I saw that one and was looking at things last night, and I'm like, oh, Connor's going to have some dusty Thielen stuff for us for sure. So not surprised there. And I think he made a good case too. There's lots of outs just in terms of, even if like he just get beat by guys on his team, right, and start to, have a share of those slot targets, and that's not a great place to be. So it's a good look.
All right, so we'll go with that. Thielen on the under for his receiving yards, 574.5. You can take it lower than that. I've added it to the entry for Underdog. Code Mayo, by the way, if you want to get in over at Underdog. How about some rapid fire ones, Noonan? Let's hear a bunch, and I'll pick my favorite.
Okay. Chris Godwin makes me nervous. 725.5 receiving yards. I like lower. Look, he was great last year when he played. Slot merchant. I think that's what we see for him again this year, but apparently he had a second surgery on his ankle last year. Still not really playing. We have offensive line concerns there as well. And they drafted, I think, another great slot receiver, Nemeka Ibuka, who can kind of slide in there. So whether it's, Jalen McMillan, who emerged last year, I think it's going to be a good passing offense still, even though Liam Coleman is gone. But look, we're talking about like low ADOT slot receptions with a guy who might not play week one. It's very easy to kind of like ease him in for the first month or so on limited reps. All of a sudden 7.25 is pretty hard for him to get to. So it's a guy that I like really like long-term, or I'm glad my Patriots didn't give him a ton of money like they tried to. But short-term, we just could have him playing limited snaps or even missing games to start. So 7.25 is kind of a little bit of a line too high for me. So I like that. I already touched on the James Cook rushing touchdowns under. Another one that I like is Saquon under 11.5 rushing touchdowns. Natural regression baked in there. And again, we know the situation there. He had 37% of the team's carries inside the 5 last year. There was no one that had that many touchdowns or, even close to being under 37. Most of these guys, Derrick Henry is like 94.5% inside the 5. And he has a rushing quarterback as well. 42.4 inside the 10. He converted just 4 of his 13 carries inside the 5 last year. If we think there's just kind of natural regression baked in, again, we have one more year of the tush push or whatever they do to litigate that in the offseason again. It's a great offensive line, and he still only got in on 4 of 13 last year. So 11.5 is pretty high. We have that under pretty comfortably as well. So I like that one. And then Ramondre Stevenson, under 675.5 rushing yards. I like Ramondre. He seems to come in motivated by Trayvon Henderson coming in. He's lost some weight. I don't even know if that's necessarily a good thing for how he should be used as kind of a, early down thumper. And he continues to put the ball on the ground. And similar to, Vrabel, I think is going to be very much like Belichick. Coaches don't really stand for fumbles often. And that's been kind of his bugaboo. He's had the most, I think last year, more fumbles than any other non-quarterback in the league last year. So, whether that ends up being a little bit more, Antonio Gibson mixing in or something, either way, I think Stevenson could have a sizable role in this offense and still fall short of 675.5. So those are 3 for you.
So Connor, of the ones that Noonan put out, I actually think the Barkley one makes the most sense, but that is just not a bus that I want to step in front of. That's what the game one, when he breaks off 3 80-yard touchdowns, you're like, oh my God, this was so stupid. The Ramondre one, I think, makes a ton of sense. That if we take a look at it, like even now projections have him for fewer than 500 yards. And we're getting an extra like 150 yards to play with here. That unless there is an injury to Henderson or Drake May just decides to stop running completely, Do we think that first and second down Ramondre is really going to get that done? And that's if he stays healthy?
Yeah, if he stays healthy, or Trayvon Henderson's just better and just like starts playing more on early downs, which is, I think, very much in the range of outcomes. So yeah, Stevenson under is my favorite as well there. I think that that's a great look. And then, Henderson overs eventually. It's just very ambiguous right now. So I think that the under is definitely the way to go for Stevenson.
All right. Rapid fire me some more, Connor.
Yeah, I'll rip off a couple and some overs, just for fun. I'm going to go with Javonte Williams under 499.5. Already touched on the backfield situation. Jaden Blue's been getting a ton of hype. Prior to that, the reporters were saying that Miles Sanders looked better than Javonte Williams. Like, this guy might just end up not even being like, not even playing by the end of the season. So under 499.5, that's still around. Aaron Jones.
Hold on 1 second. On Underdog, Javonte Williams, 575.5.
Oh, baby. Yeah, I mean, he could play a full season as a starter, and he still might not get there, to be honest.
My entry that I put in is currently 324 to 1.
And that's pretty good. That sounds nice. All right, so a couple more. Aaron Jones under 750.5. I think it's kind of interesting. I like Aaron Jones. All the reports are that Jordan Mason's coming in, being the 1A, 1B situation, a true 50-50 split. The offensive coordinator has a previous history of doing that as well, where, both of his backs had exactly like the same amount of carries, like 200 something carries. Now, that being said, Jones could get there just by being super, super efficient. But if you're bringing in added competition here, I think that a Jones under is worth a look. Darnell Mooney under 725.5 could be interesting. Check the rules on the book though, because some places you have to play week 1. He's like really seemingly in doubt for week 1. So, again, if you get just like has to play snap all season, you might get some added time missed as like an added benefit there. If not, then obviously it's not worth it. But just in general, already banged up. I think we're going to see his Michael Penix with Drake London. The 2 games they played was just outrageous. I think it was 31 targets for Drake London. Obviously, that's not sustainable, but at the same time, he seemed to be a target hog there. And then 2 overs, because I feel like I had to, sneak some overs in there for sure. Chase Brown over 899.5 yards. Bengals just cut Zach Moss. Chase Brown was a workhorse at Illinois. People forget that. Had over 300 carries, his final year. Was just an absolute workhorse there on a team that, they're just going to be scoring as many points as they can because their defense still stinks. And then Omarion Hampton, I think there's still some juice there on the over. Najee Harris, fireworks incident, close to a month ago at this point, was seen walking around on the field in pads, still had not been able to see his eyes, wearing sunglasses. I'm just skeptical that even if he does get back like next week, he's got to be ramped up quickly. He's a veteran, but not a veteran with this team. So I think that Omarion Hampton's been getting reps with the ones and is probably just the better player at this point. So I think Hampton could easily do that even if Najee is on the field, which I'm, again, skeptical about.
Of those, Noonan, I think that I actually like the Chase Brown over the best.
Yeah, I like Chase Brown. I like Hampton was going to be one more that I had today as well, even though we've, it's got baked out a little bit since the Najee news broke. I still think it's a great offensive line. And to Connor's point, like Najee's been around, but draft capital in the first round running back, and Najee's kind of new to them. I Chase Brown too. There's no competition there. They throw so much, but they do run really well. They could be a decent, actually, run blocking offensive line. So his touchdowns made me a little bit nervous, but just from a pure rushing volume standpoint, that's a little bit light. So I like that one too.
Chase Brown receptions, I would actually be very interested in. Let's see here. Chase Brown NFL season. They only have rushing yards, not receiving yards. But if you could find receptions or receiving totals or just total yards, it would make, as long as he stays healthy, I think that makes a ton of sense to go along with him. Looking at like fantasy football wise right now, he is being drafted after, let's see, you have kind of the big 4 with Bijan, Barkley, Gibbs, and McCaffrey. Then you have this little mini tier of Genty, Achan, and Henry all going at the beginning of the second round, late first. Then you're into this like stockpile of dudes. Jacobs, who we mentioned, Taylor, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, and Kyron Williams. I actually think that Chase Brown is probably the better pick of that bunch now, without Zach Moss.
Yeah, they talked about him recently as like they wanted to be like prime Austin Eckler. If you guys remember, Austin Eckler was like a top 3-4 pick the year after he had his awesome season. He's going to use a ton in the receiving game, ton in the rushing work. Like they're going to use him all the time on the highest scoring offense in the NFL. So I feel like it can be pretty much that simple as he's just going to score a ton of fantasy points.
Like to think about it this way, Noonan. Why? I get why Genty is going where he is, but what would you put the actual odds in just pure fantasy points of Chase Brown and Genty, like 1v1? It's got to be pretty close to 50-50.
Should be pretty close. I would think that gap should be a little bit tighter than it is. When I, finally submit some rankings there, I would have Chase Brown higher than a lot of guys in the tier that you listed, especially like the Kyrens. A-Chain makes me nervous. I mean, obviously,
okay, A-Chain makes me nervous, but really, what's all that different between Chase Brown and A-Chain at this point now?
No, I mean, especially like full PPR. Although I do, again, like you, because you were looking for it, I like Chase Brown's work in the passing game. I mean, last year they were actually lining up A-Chain in the slot and just kind of trying to make, anything happen there. I'm down on anything Dolphins related, to be honest. So I'm not super excited. I love Bucky Irving. I'm a little nervous about Tristan Wirfs being out too. Kyren Williams is a guy that seems like every year they want to find someone else to take some work away. And if Stafford's there, that kind of hurts. I think just the overall, what that offense is going to be doing. They seem to like a rookie that they drafted last year. They got Blake Corum last year, so the year before. So, I think we could see Chase Brown I think we have him at 11. I would definitely have him comfortably in the top 10.
So we're not going to get the 324 to 1 on the official play of the show on Underdog, but I played it. It was Javonte Williams, lower rushing yards, Stevenson, lower rushing yards, Thielen, lower receiving yards, Breece Hall, lower rushing yards, Dak Prescott, 2.5. It was higher of an alt of 4,500 of passing yards. James Cook, lower than 9.5 rushing touchdowns. Stafford, lower than 3,700 passing yards. And Malik Neighbors, higher than 1,175 receiving yards. So that paid 324 to 1. Now, we're going to parse this down a little bit. I got a 20 for you. So you tell me if you guys want to take some on this. What do you want to do with it? Because it's using your guys' picks from this show. I'm playing a 20 to 1 for the season. James Cook, lower 9.5 touchdowns. Breece Hall, lower rushing yards. Thielen, lower receiving yards. Stevenson and Javonte Williams, lower rushing yards. Noonan, is there anyone that you gave out that you like better than those ones?
No, I think those are all solid. I mean, I like the Fields play a lot, but I would understand why there's trepidation there, just because the outs of him getting a season-long injury in September kills that one. But look, injury kills all these except unders. That's a card full of unders for the most part, especially if you're 325 or 324 is basically just what Dak and Neighbors over, and then the rest were under. So congrats on getting rich.
It'd be nice. I'm very excited to win $32,000, Connor. But is this your preferred type of card? All lowers?
Yes, all lowers. So I've released, I think, 10 to 12 plays now officially at 4 for 4, and they are all lowers except for the Dak alt, which I love as well. So it's lowers and alt overs. That's the way to do it.
I actually think that makes a lot of sense, because most of the standard, minus 110, minus 110 on each side, or depending on where you play, could be like minus 120, minus 120, trying to get rich off you not shopping around. But those are going to factor in injuries to them to an extent that if the bet is, hey, he's going over because he's going to be healthy, why wouldn't you try to shoot the moon for better odds?
Exactly. That's if he's staying healthy and is you have any extra benefit, like we talked about the Dak analysis with Pickens and stuff like that, his baseline prop is 3,800 yards. I have no doubt in my mind he's hitting that. But if he stays healthy, again, pace wise, projection wise, everything, I think 4,500 yards is a normal outcome for him, and you're getting 2.5 to 1, 3 to 1 on that.
All right. I think that will do it on the Pat Mayo experience. Do you guys have any win totals besides my Rams under 9.5 wins? Are there win totals now that stick out to you a little bit more? Because I weirdly kind of like the Seahawks under as well.
I got two that I like. Denver's a fascinating football team to me. I wanted to find some sort of defensive regression that would make some sense. That makes me think they're going to kind of fall back. And I just don't see it. I think they've upgraded some areas that they were kind of questionable in last year. Jahdae Barron in the slot, bringing in Dre Greenlaw as one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. They had dusty-ass Cody Barton last year, who's now in Tennessee. Alex Singleton is a tackle machine in the middle. They got Hufanga in the back end, where they kind of had a bunch of guys rotating back last year. So they're going to be really good if they can get something from RJ Harvey. They got 5-6 guys At receiver, if they could figure out who's going to be there supporting Sutton, I think it's going to be a really, really good football team, even though the division's good. So I like them over 9.5 at plus 110. And I kind of want to bet on some ceiling stuff from Minnesota too. I think Minnesota is a fascinating team. They're like plus 320 to win the division. Over 9.5 is plus money on them as well. Great coaching, roster that's improved from last year. Schedule is way harder than it was last year for sure. But if you think JJ McCarthy is at least serviceable, it could be league average. I think it could be better than that. Looks like Christian Darrisaw is going to be back earlier than expected. I want to be buyers on things in Minnesota as well. So plus money on both those teams over 9.5.
Are you buying into JJ McCarthy as secretly the best quarterback in football, Connor?
Well, if you read X/Twitter, that's what you probably see. But I think that he could be Sam Darnold level and maybe better. It's just going to be uneven. You're going to see some incredible throws, and you're also going to see some stuff, like early Josh Allen career-esque of him just throwing the ball into double coverage or missing stuff like into the dirt, which is okay. That's fine. Josh proved that you can, get through all that stuff there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not like a JJ McCarthy slappy by any means.
Do you have some of those win totals as well? You want to shout out?
Yeah, I'll go 2 real quick. If you can still find Saints under 5.5, we released that. I mean, they are just top to bottom, really rough. Right now, their quarterbacks right now in training camp are rotating days with the ones. We got Jake Hayner, Spencer Rattler, and Tyler Shugg rotating, starting with the ones. And by most accounts, none of them are really making any progress or, beating the other ones out. There's questions on the defensive side. Obviously, you have a new coaching staff. Alvin Kamara's there, and they have some okay skill players. The offensive line is questionable at best too. So there's a lot of issues of this team winning any football game. So 6 wins would be a lot for the Saints team. And then one other one that I think could be interesting would be Lions under 10.5. The more I look at it, you lose both your coordinators. Jared Goff's been the sum of his parts quarterback his entire career, and he still has good parts around him. But I question Ben Johnson not being there. They've already talked about how they're going to isolate receivers more and just kind of let them win. That's maybe fine if you have the Lions receivers. Maybe it's not. Ben Johnson was doing great at scheming guys, putting them in motion, getting them open, and letting them kind of do their thing. I'm a little bit skeptical if that happens here. And this Lions defense, talent-wise, on paper, been good the last couple of years, just never really come to fruition outside of Aaron Glenn, essentially blitzing every play and making things happen. So skeptical on both sides of the ball. Their 11 wins would be a lot for this team in a really, really good division.
Final 2. I want to run it by you. Just get your quick thoughts on it. These are listed under the NFL season page on Underdog right now. Shakir Sanders, 2.5 games started. Higher or lower, Noonan? I'm going higher.
I'm going to go higher too. I thought the Shakir stuff was so out of pocket as we moved further along in the draft process. Should he have been a real threat to go number 1 overall? No. But was he, I think is he a pretty good prospect of what he could be? He's a fairly accurate quarterback with a really bad offensive line at Colorado. He's not a super athlete, but can throw a really good ball. And I understood why teams won when you get to second, third round, you didn't want to take on all the risk and all the things that come along with it. But pretending that this isn't someone that could play in the league for a number of years or start NFL games, I think is completely wrong. So at that point, knowing what we think is going to happen for the Browns, you're going to want to see it a little bit. So what we saw last year with Joe Flacco was very different than what we saw with Joe Flacco the previous year in Cleveland. Indy Joe Flacco wasn't great. So Kenny Pickett's dinged up a little bit. So I think we're going to see some Dylan Gabriel and some Shakir Sanders. So 2.5. It's not something I'd be rushing to bet, but I would lean over.
Connor, do you think I'm crazy to think that the Browns could actually be all right as long as Kenny Pickett's not playing quarterback?
I think that they'll figure it out at quarterback enough to the point that how much worse can it be than what we saw in previous years? I think that one of them will be okay. And I think that people are concerned because there are 4 guys there that we just don't know which one it's going to be. Right now, as of yesterday, I think Browns beat reporters are saying that Joe Flacco has a commanding lead, in the starting position at this point. So yeah, I would anticipate being Flacco for a little bit and then being okay again. Serviceable quarterback play would be massive for this Browns team, who have some reasonable talent around them and a pretty good defense. So I think that they could be okay as a team, to be honest.
We both liked the over when we did our Browns preview. They've had kind of a rough go since. Like one of their linebackers retired. They've dealt with some injuries with Emerson, one of their quarterbacks is going to be out. Some questions with the offensive line health. So they've actually had a pretty bad camp in terms of how things have started to break for them. So I'm with you. Like I think I would lean over maybe still-ish. So I think they're okay, but things have gone poorly since, over the last month since camp started here for them.
Would you take the 2.5 higher or lower, Connor?
I'm going to go with lower. I think the shitter is fine, but and should be higher, should play more. But I mean, they drafted Dylan Gabriel over him. They have Kenny Pickett, who I think might make some starts. Joe Flacco is going to start. So, I mean, if he beats out Dylan Gabriel, then yeah, he probably starts 3-4 games. If not, then I mean, could be a fun season. It could be if 4 quarterbacks get starts, that would be something. But I think you could easily make a start or 2. 3 seems like a lot given the quarterback competition.
Yeah, we'll stay with you on this one. Jackson Dart, 4.5 games started.
Oh, over. I mean, I think that's almost free. If you look at the look ahead lines here for the Giants, I mean, it is just a murderer's row. I think Russell Wilson can play fine and still not end up being the starter for half the season. You have at Washington, at Dallas, against the Chiefs, Chargers. You have a little bit of a reprieve against the Saints. Then you have Philly, Denver, Philly, San Fran in a row. I mean, how are the Giants going to win games? Like, I don't understand. Where are we getting any wins here? They're underdogs in a touchdown or more, by touchdown or more in almost all of these games. So, again, 2-6 to start. I mean, this is very possible. There's no way that they stick with Russ past that. So I think Jackson Dart starts at least half the season.
Free money, Ryan. Is that what you're saying?
A huge fan of free money. I'm with Connor. The schedule is pretty tough. We've seen enough of a Russ to know that it's not a guy that's going to hold off a first-round pick. The whole challenge with New York is really hard because we have this dynamic of a regime trying to maintain power. Do they feel like what we're seeing from Jackson Dart in practice is enough for them to give it a go, because they're still going to want to try to win football games or at least be competitive. So what shifts why I think I agree with Connor is because once they start losing football games, their case to hold on to their jobs is that they start developing Jackson Dart. So they could be like, hey, look, Mara family, we lost a bunch of games, but look what we did with this kid. We identified him, we drafted him, and look how he started to play. So their case becomes that they have a future. Let's stay with what we're doing and let us continue versus, trying to hold on to Russ and feel like, we don't even know what Jackson Dart is as we go into 2026. So over 4.5 for sure.
They'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Good news, if you go to the PME Weekly Boost on Cool Bet right now, you will find the Los Angeles Rams under 9.5 wins boosted up to plus 150 for you. That's how quickly they're moving over there. You need some customer support, you're going to get it right away. So scan the QR and get over there. If you're in Canada outside of Ontario, perfect time to do it. If you're anywhere else, you use underdog.com and put in code Mayo to get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. You can check out Noonan and Connor all over at BetSperts and 4for4 and the 4for4 YouTube channel as the preseason rolls along. And I'm sure that you're going to see them back here again. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!